Okay, there it goes. We're live.
Already losing it.
We went live with Sarah giggling. That's nice.
Yep, sorry.
It shows right there.
We should just do that
Sorry
from now on.
about
Make
Yeah,
Sarah
just-
laugh and start it. That's how it works.
that. That works for me. I like to laugh.
Okay.
But
I don't know if you
Like-
guys have actually ever met Jack. Me and Mitchell went to school with him
No.
in Whitefield. He's a really, really cool guy. He will
went
tell
to
you how it
that
is. He would tell you how it is, even if you don't like it.
Nice.
Didn't me and Mitchell go to Whitefield together for like 1 or 2 years?
I think so.
Yeah, I was trying to explain him to you, you to him, and he didn't.
Yeah, you
remember.
actually,
You're
you
not
actually
important.
look familiar now. Now that I see.
Ah! Oh my god!
So
I hate you. We're live, mother.
Oh, jeez.
but,
Oh, your
Well,
mom.
snap.
Ruined it. Ruined it. Okay,
Well, it's been a-
anyways.
it's been quite the long time since I've talked with you, Julian. I think the last time I saw you was
Okay.
crap. It was in the middle of a store. I can't remember which store, but that was the last
Shit,
time I
I
saw
don't
you.
even remember.
I'm glad we at least got to keep in contact through Facebook.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I use Facebook for. Except for now, I'm doing a little more political posts because people piss me off.
Yeah, that and shit posting. That's what I like.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
I
well,
like to
hey,
stir the pot every once in a while.
I mean, we can kind of get this rolling, but I mean, at least starting with
Yep.
you, Julian, I'd like to. All of us here have either one gone to college or two. I mean, between you and Gabe, you guys are finishing up your degrees, and especially with Gabe getting his master's. I would like a little bit of your input on kind of one, why you went, and two, was it worth it? So.
My thing is I've always been interested in tinkering, and I know there's like a lot of jobs out there you can get. You know,
It's
just
a very
just messing with
dangerous
shit.
interest, though. I've gotten in a lot of trouble.
It's
with
very,
it.
very dangerous. But I took I don't know if you ever remember it. I forgot what it was called. It was an electronics class that you did a 2-hour block at Mesa Ridge.
Yeah.
And that kind of piqued my interest more. Before I wanted to be a neurologist because our grandpa actually suffered from dementia pretty bad. And it
That's
always
something.
piqued my interest to
That's something you can't
try
really
to
tinker
fix
with,
that.
though.
Right.
Yeah. And then I figured out that you have to go to school for like almost 20 years to be a doctor. And I said, nah, I'm not doing that. What else do I like to do?
Gross.
I was like, engineering sounds pretty cool. I never really thought about it as a job. But one of the
You're
big
doing
things, though, was...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying you were doing mechatronics. Is that correct?
Yeah, mechatronics. It's actually one of the newest and fastest growing fields in engineering right now. The way our teachers tell us about it is it's a job. You're getting a degree in a job that doesn't really exist right now.
It's about to take over the AI.
Yes, it is. It actually works really well with like systems engineering, especially nowadays because a lot of systems are both software driven and hardware driven. So mechatronics is it's similar to robotics, but geared more towards the integration of both rather than like the software side.
Well, one, I hope you don't help contribute to building our machine overlord, and two, when are you going to start building me mechanical limbs so I can start tearing stuff apart?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that could be a
Yeah.
perfect senior design project because I'm trying to figure one out still. And as long as it has both software and or sensors and motors, I can do it.
Oh, well, snap.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing some kind of like bionic stuff, if you're looking for that, I mean, I'll gladly chop off my pinky finger for you to help with scientific
Perfect.
advancement.
In the name of science.
In the name
Be
of
like
science.
go gadget and just say something and something pops out your pinky.
Right?
There you go.
Probably just.
But I mean,
Oh.
for me, I think college is useful to a degree. If you're gonna get a degree in something like, and I use this because it's something that pops up a lot, business, It just doesn't make sense to me. Everybody's getting business degrees.
Yes.
Unless you're going to Harvard Business or Yale or anywhere like that and you're getting a master's degree from there, nobody really cares you have a business degree. Nobody. The
No,
market was flooded with business degrees.
Oop. Cutting out on my side.
Uh-oh. Let's see.
What happened
Can
to
you hear me
Gus?
I can hear you, but I
Okay,
think
he
you gotta
muted
keep
himself.
your mouth on that extension, I would assume.
I
I don't know how
everybody
everybody else is going.
But to me, unless you're going to get a degree in a STEM field, it just doesn't make any sense because there's not really jobs out there outside of the STEM field that really require a degree. My dad has always worked in management, always, as far as I can remember. And he got his experience from the Army. He worked 25 years as a banquet manager at the, Colorado Country Club, Cheyenne Mountain Resort in Colorado Springs. Made $60,000+ a year. Did fine. Now he works environmental care and director out of a hospital. No degree. Does fine.
Interesting. Very interesting. Do you think? I'm curious to find out how much you think that you could. Is it something that? I mean, the degree helps, but even in something like your field, do you think, especially since a lot of it's like programming oriented, is it something that you think that a certain portion of it can be self-taught? I mean, I see that you post, at least online, you post a lot of DIY projects. Is there something, don't you think, that you could kind of take care of it yourself, at least to a little extent?
So there's actually, if you talk to certain people, there's two types of engineers. There's the theoretical side of engineering, which is what I'm doing. And then there's the technician side, which actually takes what I have as theory and applies it to the real world. To me, the technician side can be self-taught because programming, electronics, things like that, it's I'm not going to say easy, but it's simpler. What I do as far as in our program is I learn a lot about theory, the theory of electromechanical devices, the theory of machine design, the theory on control circuits analysis and feedback design. That is a little harder to teach yourself. I'm not saying it's impossible because I know
Yeah.
people that have done it, but it's
Well, it sounds like the technician side is a little bit more friendly to self-education, at least with that, where you can teach yourself the concepts that are already out there. I mean, no one's really relying on you to develop the theoretical aspect of it, but I mean, again, just kind of with like some of the links that I've seen you share in the past, a lot of it seems just kind of technician oriented. Is that technician aspect of being an engineer something that would require a college degree?
I mean, now it does. I don't think it necessarily should. But it's, to me, the technician side is more like a trade school degree because you're taking the application side of what I do and applying it. It's like the I want to say like the HVAC degree of engineering because a technician literally goes in the field and works on these things that I design and build and come up with. So I don't necessarily think like a 4-year degree would be good or is necessary, but maybe like a 2, or maybe they go to a trade school and get a degree or certificate that way. But I don't necessarily think like a 4-year barrier for engineering tech, learning the theoretical, the design aspect. They're not learning mathematics that most engineering schools learn.
Oh, you okay?
Yeah, what happened? Let's see.
I close everything out. We're getting lag.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can close. That could be on my end though, because
Yeah,
I am in my front porch.
I was about to say, now
Let's
that we're
see.
kind of being casual, it's sounding pretty decent.
yeah, I know. As soon as
Okay.
we're concerned about it, jeez.
Maybe it's just because I'm talking too much.
Yeah,
I mean,
better
if I
to your
move-
voice.
Maybe if I move myself out of the way of the Wi-Fi, it might work better.
Now
Maybe.
you're like the bottom right corner of your.
I know. I can't really turn because my laptop has my camera. I can't really turn it because it's on the dock, and I don't know. It just doesn't turn that way.
I just think it's funny. You're kind of sketchy, which is
Oh, you know what might
Yeah,
help?
you're
Maybe I'll turn off
crooked.
my camera. Here we go. Maybe
Oh,
that'll help.
Oh well, that improved immediately.
Yeah, like the second it shut off,
Okay.
you went from robot.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, because we did fine last time.
Yeah.
All right.
okay, yep. All right, well, cool. All right, no, if you kind of want to circle back to what we were talking about before, that would be greatly appreciated. I was really enjoying what you had put into it, at least in the technician aspect of being an engineer.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't see how a technician requires a 4-year degree. They don't go in the in-depth of theory like a 4-year bachelor's degree in engineering does. They don't. In fact, most technician colleges don't even do as much in mathematics as a true engineering degree does. We have to go 3 calculus classes. Well, okay, most schools, CSU Pueblo only does 2 calculus classes and differential equations. Most will do 3 calc classes and DiffEq as a requirement just for math, and then everything else on top of what else you learn. Like for mechatronics, it is a lot of, we do a lot more electrical than we do mechanical, but that mechanical is so in depth that if you don't have any basic understanding of physics, not even just a basic understanding, an in depth understanding of physics, then it's not going to make sense to you. So I don't see why a 4-year technician's degree should be required for these people to go work in the field.
No, and I would agree, and that's kind of why I wanted your input and at least try to explore a little bit more of what you're doing now. I mean, what exactly are you doing with the theoretical aspect? There's a little bit of cutout, or there was actually quite a lot of it cut out when you were trying to explain it before. So if you kind of want to touch up on that again, I would be more than happy to hear.
Essentially, like, we learn the theory of circuits, AC, DC voltage, electromechanical devices, control systems and feedback. We have to learn how to understand transfer functions, how they apply to the real world, where literally a transfer function is a mathematical equation. How do you get that from a circuit? That's what we learn. It's the theory on mechanics, the statics and dynamics side of it, whether or not, or how to apply an equation to a real world application, but on the theory of everything in this beam, the forces have to equal 0, the sum of them all, and then things like virtual machine design and processing and manufacturing. The one class I'm taking now, manufacturing and processing, seems to be the only class that has a non-theoretical side to it, because it's literally real world applications. We're learning how to machine, we're learning the different tooling. That seems to be the only class we have taken so far that it isn't only based on theory and understanding the theoretical aspect of engineering.
Okay, well that's interesting to know, especially with machining. I mean, at this point in time, it's almost something where anybody with $1,000 can kind of start out something themselves. Even if you take just a basic CAD class, you can kind of just come out. But it's good. It's just interesting to hear at least the theoretical applications versus the actual doing of the job. So
yeah, and then, I mean, we will be doing like the job after I graduate. I will have a job to do. I will go out in the field and I will work on things. You remember Cesadio, right?
yes. Oh yeah. No. How's he doing?
He has his degree in mechatronics. He works for Lockheed Martin. He is a systems engineer who does ground-based communication systems. He does hardware and software installs on them. So he literally goes out in the field and does these things as an engineer. But there's also
That's
things
awesome.
that technicians will do very similar to what he does. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need an engineer to go out in the field to do that, because everything he learned could be applied to a bigger project, or in fact, he could oversee these technicians because everything they're doing, he knows, and he can, tell them, okay, well, I need you to do this. He'll go back and he could go back in his office and say, okay, work through this. This is what I need done. Okay, they come back. Okay, this isn't working. Okay, what can I do to fix this? That's what he could be doing, and a technician could essentially be doing the grunt work. I don't want to necessarily mean like grunt work, but like the hands-on.
Interesting. There's someone we went to school with. Their name's fairly specific, and I always am hesitant to release their names, but at least in this kind of forum. But they at least didn't go to college, and they were able to just go through. They're in the reserves in the military, and they just reserves, and they were able to kind of sign on with a contractor as well with zero college experience or zero college education whatsoever. And I mean, they're working for another military contractor as well, but I mean, he's making stupid money, but it was something where he kind of said that he was glad he didn't go to college about.
Oh, there's definitely those jobs out there, and I see them all the time. And I mean, it really just depends. And even with like engineering, you may have a degree, but unless you know people, you're not really going to do much with it. I mean, yeah, you're going to find a job as an engineer. Maybe you'll work for a firm. Maybe you'll work for a company like Lockheed Martin. But in order to progress into a career and a successful career as an engineer, you need to know people.
Yes. Well, you need to know people. I would say you need to know people, and at least with, I mean, even kind of just median and average, for lack of a better way to put it, mean and median IQ people, there's all you need to do is just expand your horizons a little bit, where you can get anything in from manufacturing and machining to trades and all that. But even these technician jobs, where you're not necessarily having to rely on being a part of the managerial aspect of everything or developing anything, you can go out there and have a very successful career, kind of just being the field technician.
Oh, definitely. I see it all the time. I mean, we went to school with people who are linemen. I mean, that's a trade. That's what they do. They're linemen, and they probably, and I can guarantee you, they make more now than I will starting off as an engineer.
God, I do not envy linemen. I'm about to starting up my education actually with what I'm going into. I'll be having to go back to class again. That'll be interesting in and of itself. But I mean, there's even places where they'll just kind of take you on and go. They'll make you eat shit for about 6 months before they go, okay, now let's actually start teaching you how to do things.
Yep.
So, but I mean, is there anything else you kind of want to add on, at least into the initial point, or
Unless you know that the field that you're interested in, if you can't progress without a degree, there's really no point to go to school. I am a huge advocate on furthering your education in any way possible. You don't have to go to college. My parents didn't go to college. My dad was very successful when we were younger. I mean, when the recession hit, yeah, everybody took a shit.
yeah,
But he bounced back because of his experience, because of his work ethic, and it does not necessarily mean you have to have an education to further yourself in this world. And I don't think schooling is perfect for everybody.
and at least to follow up on that, I mean, there's a lot of things, especially with the people who go for lack of a better way to put it, liberal arts degrees, whether it's political science, communications, history, anything like that. I mean, a lot of that stuff you can be self-educated on, especially in this kind of internet age with free access to information everywhere. I mean, it's something you can learn all of history, and you can also learn all of the different perspectives, aspects, and philosophies from it as well.
Oh, I completely agree.
One
Go
thing
ahead,
I'd
Gib.
say on that is you have to make sure you're good at finding reputable resources. Because if you just, the internet is the internet. Not everyone's throwing the truth out there. But yeah, you're right. You could self-educate really easily as long as you know how to find what you're looking for. And it's from a good resource. You're perfectly becoming educated on the internet.
Come here.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with that. So, well, I mean, we can move on. At least I'd like to hear another perspective from someone else. Sarah, Gabe, whichever one of you guys want to jump in. I would like to hear your input from your personal experience of college and what you think of the whole college system in and of itself.
All right.
Do you want to go?
Sure, I'll go.
Go for it.
Well, going for a master's in biology, bachelor's in biology, and I have a secondary minor in secondary education.
Oh my God.
So I'm all of that put together. I'm basically being a science teacher, either in high school or middle school. That's what I'm educated for. I can take what I have and go off into, because with biology, you kind of fall into an emphasis. Either it's ecology, microbiology, anything, kind of those two. Mine's more ecology, sort of fisheries.
No.
So I study fish. A large part of what I do is fish.
Come on.
But
No, get down. Come on.
there's a dog. That's funny. But in my experience, the only thing I don't like about college is how much money I have had to throw into it. I've had to throw into it. And as a teacher, I'm not going to get that back.
Yeah, that's something based off of what you're saying. I'm kind of curious about. I actually just talked to someone last week. They got their master's degree. It was in musicology, but they kind of were saying the same thing as well, where I mean, all they have going, at least with how it's structured for them, is just to kind of reteach it. And is it necessarily that you're wanting to be in, did you say secondary or post-secondary?
Secondary education.
Ah, wow. Okay. Have you thought about any kind of like post-secondary education?
I thought about it. It's not at the forefront of my mind, but I have thought about it simply because having a master's degree, I could go for that. And going into post-secondary, it'd be more, it's not like a huge bump in pay, but it'd be a higher pay. It'd pretty much be the same benefits as working at any public school. So go ahead.
Or is teaching kind of exactly what you want to do, given your, I would say, vast educational background, especially getting your master's in biology? I mean, it's almost, if you focused it right, it's almost like you and Julian could team up to start making this kind of cyborg army happen.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no. I went the other way. I am more ecology. I study sort of the bigger picture. I'm not very big into anatomy, but that would be cool. I could do that. But with my emphasis, I actually have a lot of opportunity going into fish and wildlife, either state or federal. There's actually a federal recruiter at our college that's there all the time, and my advisor keeps pushing me to go for fish and wildlife because, one, it starts off at $50K median job. That's like an
that's great
because of the pathways that we get by going to the college. They have like direct pathways into getting a job. But if we didn't have those, if I wasn't able to get those, federal jobs are actually really competitive. So being able to do that, if I did decide to go another route, it would be into fish and wildlife, probably. Because that's just
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that's just where my focus is. So,
what exactly would a job in, like, at least the broad area of fish and wildlife entail?
Depends on what you go into. There are always the park rangers, because I have an education minor. That's kind of the one that they lump me into, is park ranger. Also with my master's, I could become a biologist. Specifically, I'd be a fish biologist because most of my credits go towards fishery sciences.
Really?
But yes, it could be either on federal land. It could be for a base, like on base for, like say at Fort Carson. I could be the biologist of Fort Carson.
Really? That kind of makes me want to ask, especially when you're bringing up being able to get a job on a military base and the federal government being involved. I mean, would you say there's any kind of future for being able to like weaponize salmon or trout?
They got a lot of space there.
To touch on that, there's actually research going on at my school right now in the engineering department, where we are researching a type of plastic that when an electromechanical pole or electronic pulse is applied to it, it moves like a fish.
Really? So, I mean, well, especially given Gabe's background and Julian's skills, I mean, we could make an Austin Powers movie happen and actually have sharks with friggin' laser beams on their heads.
Yeah. Yes, we could.
I'm down with that.
I would be very down for that.
I'll take over the world, heck. I mean, all the coastal cities, at least.
Oh, yeah. No, well, isn't there something about, like, wasn't the U.S. Navy kind of using dolphins as...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, hey, get a grant. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one big thing with dolphins, I know they were using them to like, search for mines in the ocean.
Yeah.
The echolocation. I know that much as far as that. But that's
I just want to make sure I don't sound completely uneducated. I know that there's a difference between dolphin and fish, so
there is.
I'm not completely retarded.
Right. No, I got you. No, yeah.
No. You were saying that you're being lumped in with park ranger, but that's actually something my own dad was kind of pushing me to do, because that's something I'd really love to do, and I think that'll be with what we're going to discuss later. I mean, that almost sounds like a dream job, being to go out there and especially kind of apply your knowledge to being out there in the wildlife and being able to apply your knowledge to better our natural resources. I think that personally, that sounds like a dream job, and I wish I could be. I wish I could do something like that, but sadly, I chose a different path.
Oh no, I'm torn between that and teaching, because teaching, while very honorable of a job, it's a very unappreciated job. Like you said, it's kind of a dream job to be a park ranger, because you're just out there helping other people understand what's going on. You're educating people. You're actually helping maintain, like you said, our natural resources. And I love fishing.
Well, given especially since you focus on fish, and since you're torn between fish and teaching high school students, do you know what the difference between fish and high school students is?
What's that?
If you upset one of them, they're not going to shoot up their school.
Holy shit.
I just thought of that on the fly. Sorry.
That was a good one. Oh.
It's like you saved that forever. It's like you were ready for the perfect time for that.
Yeah, no, that just happened to come in right. Like I couldn't plan it. I couldn't plan it better.
You're like, this is my moment. I've been holding. But no.
If that helps you kind of make a decision, I'll just say that, so.
Jeez. Man, now I'm kind of swaying to one side, huh?
Right. But no, I mean, would you say? I can't remember if you said or not, but would you say that it is worth it? I mean, especially something with biology. I mean, that kind of fits into like what Julian and I were saying, or what Julian was saying earlier is, I mean, if you're not in STEM, there's no point in going to college. But at least with general biology, would you say that's something that's worth going to college for?
Now, it depends. There are, with my general biology degree, I'd say mine is very knowledge heavy rather than application. So I went to college for just to get a certain depth of knowledge rather than like Julian's going for where he's actually getting trade skills. I mean, with my education degree, I got trade skills for that. But the general biology degree itself, no, it's just it's very knowledge heavy. I mean, you might need simply just because the access to the resources, but like you said, the internet's there. You can get all the resources you need.
Well, biology's, especially going forward with it, there's not a lot you can do. At least with like trying to even kind of make a career off of it, or even getting a decent, I shouldn't say practical application, but I mean, you can't really get hands-on education from something like biology. You're not going to be able to conduct experiments on the internet. If there's anything, without delving into like the political aspect and the details of who they are, I'll just ask real quick, have you ever heard of someone called Jean-Francois Gariepi?
I can't say that I have.
They're a YouTube personality who is a biologist, and I mean they've been making a decent career. It definitely went down a very interesting pathway in terms of where they're at now. But I would recommend checking out Jean-Francois Gariepi. But I mean, actually, they were talking about something with trout, actually, mainly in regards to like KNR selective reproduction strategies or something like that. But give JF Gariepi a look and see what I mean, that's the only kind of like internet biologist who's made a career through their biology. So at least to show that.
Right, because otherwise you have to have like a specialized, like going into microbiology. They have a lot of training and jobs open for that, but you have to. That's probably one of the ones where you'd have to go to college because you need the resources in order to do experimentation, get the hands-on experience, like you were saying, with it. I
have a ton of biological experiments I'd like to run, but I don't think I'd be able to get the grant money on them because I think I'd get in a lot of trouble for them.
That's the unfortunate thing.
Right?
People have to. There has to be a group of people that says, that's okay to do.
it would take a certain amount of people surrendering their pets or their children. So.
One thing I've noticed about like CSU Pueblo, that's where both me and Gabe go, is it's not a huge research school, or at least it didn't used to be. Within the past 3-4 years, there's been grants given to the school with emphasis on research, like STEM, and more recently C-Base, which is it's communities building active STEM engagement, and research is a huge part. We actually hired on a new research professor for the engineering department, and if you have an idea and you present it to them and they say, you know what, that sounds cool, they will give you money to do solo research.
Can any Tom, Dick, and Harry submit ideas to be researched, or?
I think you have to have a student present it, but you can definitely be a part of it.
Right.
Because there are actually projects now that outside of the school, people have submitted to a coordinator. They brought it up, they got funding for it, and they are actually employing students to run that research for these people.
Really?
Yeah, on that point, there was while I was doing my student teaching last semester, one of the students I was working with,
sorry about that,
really smart man, really smart kid. Was looking into doing a wind turbine but not the big fan type that we have. It was going to work off of vibration itself. So I immediately thought, you've seen the ones that kind of shake in the wind, rather.
Yeah.
But he was going a different route. He was going to use a completely very difficult to get substance. I can't even remember the specifics of it.
Graphene.
But anyway, graphene. He was looking into using graphene, and there was some other
Graphene.
graphene.
Is that
It's
related to like graphite in some
Yes,
kind of way?
actually, it comes from graphite.
Really?
Yes, it's like a
So
very
just giant-
thin, like nano fiber of graphite. It's not like a straight sheet. It's got different like makeups, like hexagon. It's not like a hexagon. It's like a pattern that makes it stronger, more conductive. In fact, actually, if you move graphene in a certain way, it conducts electricity.
Huh. So are we basically just having a bunch of wind turbines or wind turbines powered by wooden pencils?
If you make a flag out of it, yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Interesting. No, very interesting.
yeah.
I'm
But
assuming off the "ite" versus "ine" suffix. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I just remember from basic chemistry that they're like
see,
there's
that's what I
something
did.
that's different, but I'm not going. I just want to make cheap jokes about it. So
Yeah, that's why I didn't go into chemistry. I don't know the difference between those. I had to take, what was it, up to organic chemistry, and I was done. I'm completely happy not doing anything else. But
I
no,
withdrew from basic chemistry.
so gross. I hate that stuff. But what I was going off of is, it was a high school student. They submitted it. They actually submitted it. It didn't get accepted, but he submitted it. And they
No,
were
it
actually
got
very-
accepted.
Oh, did it?
It's just nobody took it on. They're still going to do it.
Oh, okay.
I think the faculty is actually going to work on it. So the
Okay.
faculty
Oh, wow.
engineering department is going to work on it because none of the students in Seabase wanted to work on it because it was so new. I'm assuming.
Right.
I already had a project I was working on, so I didn't pick it up. But they are still looking at the faculty picking it up and doing the research on it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because he was going to do it for science fair, this high school kid, but then he threw it up to the college to see if they'd be able to do it because it was going to cost a heck
This
of
is
money.
expensive.
Yeah, because there's only one manufacturer in the United States that can provide it, and they don't even provide that much at the amount that he needed.
Oh, that's a huge catch-22 because
Yeah.
I mean the research is not out there for a provider to really make, or someone who wants to do a startup to kind of provide that kind of investment into
Yep.
a new and emerging field.
Speaking of like new and emerging fields, one of the research projects that we're working on now is a thing called memoristors. Essentially, it is an electronic circuit per se that remembers things,
That's terrifying.
and
That's
it is
legitimately
so new that a lot of engineers in the field now think it's entirely made up.
Oh,
It sounds terrifying. That's
Yeah.
my first kind of
It's not like
knee-jerk
it
reaction.
memorizes information; it remembers its previous state. Like there's things like RAM, random access memory
Yeah.
that it stays on your computer for a while. This is RAM on steroids.
Oh, buddy bear.
so it's a certain. It reaches a certain, for lack of a better word, like you said, state, but it's like a certain configuration, and it remembers that configuration. Then it can go back to
It has, yeah, essentially. I'm not doing the research on it. My friend
Right.
is, but from my understanding from him is that it is on the. How do I want to say this? It is the link between physical circuits and artificial intelligence.
That's absolutely terrifying,
Yep,
and
yep.
I'm immediately against it.
It is literally the Santa Claus of the research we're doing now because people just it's so new. People are like that's not true. That there's no way that could be
believe it.
possible.
Dang.
Whether they think it's possible or not, like I don't want them to make it possible. Like, I believe
Oh.
in human supremacy. I do not want to create AI overlords. I do not want to engage in the machine war, anything like that. Like so, this kind of thing needs to be put down in the crib.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty expensive too, so there's not very many people doing a lot of research on them.
Well, to be a little bit more serious, I'm curious about the applications of it. With outside of AI, I mean, is there any more, whether it's robotics or anything like that? Is there what would the applications be?
I would want to say it's more like along the lines of robotics, because you have a robot running and you stop it, you start it back up, it starts at the very beginning of its program. If you have a memristor on a robot and you stop it, it picks up exactly where it left off. It doesn't rerun the program and start from the beginning.
Okay.
So it's like it's very, very. I mean, my understanding is very limited on it because my friend kind of tried to explain it to me, and when he said it, it made sense, but I kind of forgot it. It's essentially like RAM, but it takes up less space. It's easier to do, and it doesn't get erased when you turn off and disconnect the battery or the power from these memristors. It stays. It's like it almost physically writes to the memristor, but it can be erased just as easily. So, like with RAM, if you pull it out of your computer, it's gone. The RAM's gone. I mean, the memory that was on it's gone.
So
Memristor, if you do that, it doesn't. It stays.
It's almost reflexive at that point.
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, I got a lot of other questions I want to ask, but it's going to be wading off into the weeds because I'd like to pick both Julian and Gabe's mind. But I mean, I'm kind of to at least go back to the initial point. I would like to see. Is there any closing statements that you would like to put in, Gabe, before we move on?
Just that I think biology, you need the college simply for access to resources and research.
Okay.
For my teaching, that is definitely not one you need to go for a 4-year degree on. I mean, it's only a minor, but at the same time, you have to major in something to get that minor. It definitely be more of a trade school, I think.
Well,
here we're going to start going off again, but I just want to ask, have you thought about, I mean, given your extensive background in biology, have you thought about doing, and since you do want to be involved in education, have you thought about utilizing an internet platform such as YouTube or anything like that, and plus creating like a Patreon where you can kind of teach biology online?
Personally, I didn't think about going directly to it. I've always wanted to incorporate the internet because the way I've learned is a lot of videos, because
Same, man.
I can rewind it and I can go back to the parts I didn't understand. But being able to do that, I think, as a resource, like put some videos on the internet, on YouTube or something for students to use, I think that's where I'd start. And then I could move directly just to using sort of an internet platform to teach. I think that would honestly be a good thing to do. Like, I don't know if I could do like live like this all the time, but like the video, putting up videos of certain topics that students need to understand, I think I could do that easily. I think that'd be actually a good thing to do because, I mean, there's a lot of them available at the moment.
Well, one of the big things to do is I have no experience in biology or any kind of formal education whatsoever, but at least kind of just making a shot in the dark from just observation. I mean, between teachers and what goes on the internet, I mean, you could almost just kind of create a lesson plan and base it off of there, it would seem, and kind of just promote that basic lesson plan. So,
no, yeah, I think that's actually good.
Because I mean, a lot of, especially like since you're doing secondary education, a lot of it is you're kind of reteaching the same thing over and over again. Where,
unfortunately,
we'll start out with cellular, we'll start out with what a cell is, and then go from there. And looks like Sarah dropped out. Dang it! Right before. So, anywho,
no, it looks like
at least with kind of how post-secondary or secondary education educators are, they repeat the same thing 20 to 30 times throughout their lifetime, between going what a cell is all the way up to kind of just basic ecology or zoology, where you got to map out everything.
Oh yeah, and unfortunately, I don't know if you want to go down this rabbit hole, but one of the unfortunate things about having to reteach like that is because we have those big gaps between the grades. That summer vacation, a lot of information is lost, so we're kind of forced to have to go over reteach things like that. But I think the main reason we have to end up reteaching, which I think that, like you said, the videos would be a good part because they could reteach themselves. But a big part of the reteaching is because we're slowly going more in depth, making sure they understand where they were before, where they should have been, and then kind of stepping a little further in. But yeah, like you said, I think we could do a lot online with the videos because it kind of puts what am I trying to say? It kind of sets a certain memory for them, so they already know. What am I trying to say? They have access to that information whenever they need it, if they need a refresher. But we're still able to progress further with each grade rather than having to revisit it every time.
Oh, that's always a hard thing to kind of try and measure in and of itself, though. Mm-hmm. So I mean, just trying to expand upon each one of those certain aspects. I mean, a majority of the students will be able to kind of progress from there, but there's a certain portion where they're not going to be able to really comprehend it, and at least within any kind of formal and or institutionalized education, they are really focused on trying to secure those that bottom 10 to 15%.
Right.
So
no, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
But no. I really like what you had to say about both between basically about education, and I mean, I'm really curious. I'd really like to pick your brain at a further point about just biology in general. And hey, if there's any kind of certain education on biology, I would really, I'll volunteer myself for you to do some one-on-one teaching.
Oh no, perfect, anytime.
But hey Julian, it seems like we had another person join. So
yeah, I'm not sure if you remember my cousin Robert. He helped out a lot when we wrestled.
I remember you talking about him earlier, but I don't specifically remember Robert.
He was short, had big ears.
Get him, Rob. Get him.
I'm still pretty short.
And he still have pretty big ears.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
He was I'm not sure if you remember when Devin was trying to perfect the move senior year called the V Hill. It was named after this guy.
I do not. I apologize.
No,
yeah, nobody remembers Robert. They just remember the V Hill.
Yeah, I'm not very memorable.
He is very memorable. He broke his ribs like twice. You broke your ribs twice, didn't you?
No, I dislocated my sternum and broke my ribs.
That's right.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, he went hardcore.
So you just had a floating sternum for a little bit?
Yeah, the head of my ribs popped out of the socket.
Oh my.
That's crazy.
I have a lot of questions. What do you do about that when your whole chest skeleton is?
There's not really anything they can do. They just told me take painkillers and relax.
That's really sketchy in and of itself. Oh wow. Well, do you wanna catch Robert up to speed there, Julian?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're mostly talking about college, whether it's necessary, mine and Gabe's experiences in college, and actually, I think you'd be a good fit for this topic because you went to school too. You were going to college, but you also have a job, a trade job that is a decent paying job and doesn't necessarily require a degree and works for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an alternative route to college. I know that some people just get bored in the classroom, or that college setting is just not for them, and they're more hands-on.
Hmm.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you what trade you're going into?
I'm
Or
actually
what you're in, I should say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's electrical. So I started off as an electrician, but
You're-
right now I'm a fire alarm technician.
You're a better man than me. I'm about to be starting up plumbing, but I will never touch. I'll never be a Sparky.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't like it too much, the electrical side of it too much. But the fire alarm side is more technical, more. I feel
Systems
there's more.
oriented.
Yeah.
He gets me a lot of cool shit.
Really? What kind of cool shit can you get from being a fire alarm, being involved with the fire alarm aspect?
I just get some fire alarm panels, a lot of fire alarm devices, relays, stuff like that.
Interesting.
Stuff Julian can tinker with, you know.
Yeah, and make cool shit with.
So you said you started out as an electrician. I mean, did you go through a union, or did you, start out through like the private sector where you kind of started out as a helper and then they kind of put you on through it?
Yeah, I didn't go through the union. I started out as an apprentice, but even before that, I was doing. Sorry, I just got an email. I was doing security work and access control, and then I went into the apprenticeship for a company, and then switched over to the fire alarm side for that same company. And I've been in the trade for 15 years.
Oh wow! So did you kind of with how you started out, was that something you kind of just wandered into, or how exactly did you get involved in? Especially since you didn't go through the union, how did you get involved in being just casually being a apprentice electrician?
Well, it started with my parents' neighbor asked my dad if he wanted a job, and I happened to be there at the same time, so I wanted a job as well. And that was for the security and access control company. And then I met a journeyman electrician on a job I was doing. And so when that job moved out of town, I couldn't go with it because I have kids. I just went to that company, applied for a job, and they hired me.
Really?
Yeah, so it was basically just through people I met along the way. And
Networking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something we touched on earlier. Is that it's a lot of what people do now is if you know somebody, you're almost set as far as making it through life in the career path you chose. Because like if I don't know anybody in engineering, it's gonna be just as hard for me to get a job because they're gonna look at me like, okay, there's another engineer.
There's something to be considered here in regards to like what you and me and Gabe were talking about is like, we didn't address this specifically, but there's a lot of people who say that they go to college specifically for the networking. But I mean, even if you don't go to college, the networking can happen. I mean, it's as simple as just your family member happening to know someone.
Right.
Yeah,
Once someone gets old enough, I mean, they have a wide enough of social contacts where they can go, well, I happen to know a person in this industry where like they're asking around. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
and that's
not
actually
like go ahead.
working out. That's actually seems to be working out for me now because I know three people or two people that have engineering degrees, and another one that has a CIS degree that work for Lockheed Martin. And one in particular, I said before, Cesario, I went to him and said, hey, it was actually for a school project, for project planning. Hey, do you have, what are the jobs that you guys are hiring for? Blah, blah, blah. And he came up and straight up told me, hey, my lead is looking for somebody who is willing to work for us for not just 6 months, somebody who's going to be with us a long time. And that right there shows me like, hey, networking, perfect. That puts my foot in the door.
Interesting. On the topic of education, hey, Robert, I'm curious, since you basically became an electrician, I'm curious about how exactly you became educated in becoming an electrician.
Most of it was on the job training. When I first started out with the company that I started my apprenticeship with, they started sending me through, at the time it was the independent electrical contractors, which that is just like basically a trade school.
Yes, I have a friend who's going through that themselves, and I'm about to. Well, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, so I went through that for a little while, and then when I switched over to fire alarm, my career path took kind of a different turn, and I didn't really complete that course or that schooling. I just did mostly on the job training, and then so for fire alarm, there's a different set of certifications that you go through to get, and so I started getting those certifications, taking those tests, and studying on my own, and just picking stuff up as I did it.
How did you go through getting those certifications? Like, where? Not exactly where, but I mean, are there certain institutions that you can go go to?
Yeah, here in Colorado, in Colorado Springs, there's two that they use mainly. One is NICET, and the other one is a CSA program through Pearson Learning. So basically, they have packets, and then they have requirements for, like, you have to have certain time on the job in order to get different levels, go through the different tiers, and then you just take a test. You pass the test and you meet their requirements, then they award you the certificate and the license.
Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Well, that excites me to hear, at least.
Yeah, it's different, I guess, and it's interesting. Some of the tests can be pretty difficult, but it's one route.
It's better than going through college and whatnot. And, I mean, there's certain people who are able to get information through being hands-on, such as myself, kinesthetic for the education person, Gabe, in the chat. But no, there's certain things, especially going through just the casual. Oh, well, there we go. Going through the casual school system. Going through the casual school system, it really never pans out too well.
What'd you do, Ralph? That's funny. But no, like we were saying, I would agree that a lot of the time, education, especially for the more hands-on things, it's not necessarily needed, as in higher education, like college. It's not necessarily needed because you can access jobs, nice jobs, like Rob has. You can access those jobs just by knowing people, like we said earlier.
Yeah, no, that's always something that's really it's kind of saddened me, but at the same time, I mean, the biggest thing is to try and promote the alternative to higher education to people.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, it used to be the norm about 25 to 40 years ago. But now, I mean, it's almost all but forgotten in terms of how to try and incorporate it to putting out that kind of information to people who have been so used to having things like college pushed down their throat.
Oh yeah, I'd agree. And
Especially like I mean, as early as 6th grade. I mean, I watched my sisters who there was a significant age difference between me and my two sisters, but
Right.
they got it from the very get-go, and they never really, up until they finally got into high school, they weren't really doing any kind of trades oriented program to help lateral people over into being involved in a respectable job force.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, because I remember going in when I was in high school. I remember being pulled out of class as a junior and a senior, especially about going to college. There was nothing about trade schools or anything like that. It was always going to college, getting a degree so you can be marketable in the job scene. Because they always said that you need a degree in order to succeed. That's kind of the old push that they said. And
Real quick, how old are you, Gabe? I'm sorry.
I'm 28.
Oh, okay. So we're all in the same area, so we all know how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that, I mean, that's something I remember too. Is, I mean, not necessarily just from like school. Is, I mean, I got it a lot from counselors. Oh, are you going to college? If you started applying for college, what are you going to do after high school? Are you going to college? What are you going to college for? What do you want to do when you're older?
Oh yeah, and I
It
remember
was
just
everywhere. It wasn't just like in school. I mean, I got it everywhere.
Oh yeah, and I
remember going. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I remember just kind of saying something to kind of throw into that spot when people would ask me, "Oh, what are you doing after school? What college are you going to?" That sort of thing. I just remember having an answer to go to. I didn't really mean it, but everyone asked it all the time, so I had to have an answer for it.
I did the exact same thing, and then I mean, I went to school. Like, I wanted to be an engineer myself. I wanted to do computers. I mean, I built my own computers. I tinkered around with both programming and networking and all that. But the second I started going through college, I mean, I enjoyed my computer science and programming classes a lot because they were very objective oriented, where it's like project oriented, where it's like even just doing a very basic C++ programming class, they the projects, which were pretty much the only things that were weighted, they had you do complete an objective, and if you were able to demonstrate that you're able to do so, then they gave you a passing grade on it. But going through all the other minutia of the whole college experience to spend money on, like, I really lost interest in it. And like what Julian was saying earlier, like, I've been a tinkerer myself, and I've mainly just been a hands-on learner. That I would say the only difference is I started becoming incredibly claustrophobic, for a lack of a better way to put it, but I did not want to be inside under fluorescent lighting the whole time. So I kind of went out on my own and just started building whatever I could and became self-educated on that.
Right.
I completely agree. I mean, I'll be the first to put this out there. When it came to classes that weren't engineering, I didn't care about them. I didn't see the point of them.
Got a passing grade?
I didn't see the point. Why does an engineer have to take psychology? Why does an engineer have to take a history class? Why do engineers have to take sociology or Chicano studies or Spanish or any of these other things? Why? I didn't see the point in it. And I personally did enough just to pass those classes because I did not like them. I did not want to waste my time in them.
That's a really good point, and that's exactly how I felt with when I went through college.
I mean, that's where I think trade schools are great for people, because in a trade school you learn everything you're going to learn, not anything else. You learn what you're supposed to learn, what you're going to be doing. You learn it hands-on. You learn in classroom too, but you learn just what you're going to school for. Like HVAC, you learn HVAC. You don't have to. When you're in HVAC, school, you don't learn about nursing or biology or chemistry. You don't have to take, like in my case, a technical elective or a math science elective just because. You take the classes you need. That's it.
Um, this this does make me want to ask. I mean, since we're kind of all in agreement, this does make me want to ask, like, there are certain things outside of the actual technical aspect, and I mean, after kind of thinking about what you were talking about before, Julian, is that the difference between being a theoretical engineer and a technical engineer is basically the technicians are going out and doing so. I mean, that happens with the trades where, I mean, there's even a difference between the people who are doing the actual trades, but there's also the like managerial aspect of it as well. There be a should trade schools either one should it be one that trade schools incorporate at a certain point, uh, introducing managerial skills, or should there be a what? How should you? How should I put it? How should managerial skills be taught to the technicians, where it's having to deal with intrapersonal skills in leadership roles?
From my experience, it's all that is literally an on the job thing. You learn that as you go. Not everybody that goes into technician's field wants to be a manager. Nobody wants to have to. I mean, not nobody. Most people don't want to have to be the boss of somebody because they just don't want to. I know me personally. I mean, and I joke about this all the time. Is I'm going to be an engineer because I don't like people. I don't want to have to deal with people on a daily basis. I don't want to have to sit here face to face with a customer and say, and constantly talk to them. But at the same time, I am a very personal person. I can do what I need to do because I have that experience, not from school, but from real world applications. Yes. I mean, I literally learn these things by going out and talking to people. I don't like people, but I still do it. And I learn these things not from school, but like from like working the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that this is something that, I mean, I guess it could be taught. I don't see how, but I just don't see how or why it would be incorporated into like a trade school. I think that's more along the lines of, okay, you show your interest in wanting to be a manager. Let's focus on that. But also you still need to learn, or you still need to remember what your job is.
It's basically that the trade school will teach you the technical skills, but in order to become any kind of leadership, that's something for you to learn and develop on your own. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes and no. I mean, I know there's certain places. I know, I forget where it was. They do, like at Lockheed Martin, they hire engineers and they'll start out, an associate engineer or just an engineer, a senior engineer, whatever. They start off as an engineer. They put them through a leadership program because they see the potential in them. They literally put them through a program that teaches them how to be a personal manager, how to be the manager that's going to work with everybody, that's going to be understanding, that's going to know what to do with these people. The company literally has a program geared towards leadership.
So it should be post secondary then?
I think so.
I
think that's a good point. What do you think, Gabe?
No, I would agree. I was going to say that typically, from my understanding, they have sort of training for people that want to be managers. And I think that's kind of a good thing. But I also think, like we were saying, it should be something you kind of do on the job. Like, you shouldn't just go to classes and then be a manager. You kind of have to know how to apply what you learned in the class onto the actual job. And then by being at the actual job and learning from, say, your manager, you can see how it's done rather than just theory to it's getting theory from the class to practice. And by working with your manager, someone who's actually job you're going to be taking or someone you're going to be working beside, you can take theory to practice by observing them, working with them. So kind of the same as what you guys are saying.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't like, I'm not saying that business majors aren't like, I don't see why business majors need a degree for it, because they're going for business management. They're going to manage a business, but
I
they don't have.
completely agree with you on that.
They don't have.
Holy moly.
I want to say the people skills just because they go to the classroom. Just because you have a degree in management doesn't mean you're a good manager. I've literally witnessed that.
Oh.
That these people that have business degrees can't be good managers. It just seems that business degrees make worse managers than people without them.
See, I'm glad I went through without having to go through college education. I'm glad I got to experience managing a business firsthand, where I realized I had to realize doing that actual management aspect of it. A lot of the finer points I was just not. I didn't do too good of a job at, and I mean I had to. I improved my skills, but at the same time, I kind of just withdrew from it and would rather focus on a different aspect. And I'm glad I got an education through the school of hard knocks, but my God, I can imagine spending anywhere from 30 to 60 grand a year or at least being 30 to 60 grand in debt to learn that lesson in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
Just get my ass kicked.
Oh, I agree. I'd rather be earning money learning that rather than shelling it out.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think we've kind of ran through on at least that, and I'm glad we've gotten to the conclusions that we've gotten to, but I mean, I kind of, especially with someone between Julian and I being avid at outdoorsmen, and then having having someone as esteemed as Gabe being interested in fish and wildlife, I think we should kind of move on to the next topic at hand, if that's fine with everybody.
Let's do it.
For me, that topic is, why do we need fishing and or hunting licenses?
Up front, from my experience in education, it is for conservation purposes. It is so that we know, because for fishing, one thing you have to do is you have to see how many fish are in there and how many you can take out of it, what's called the maximum yield. And in order to get a maximum yield, what you're doing is you're trying to figure out how many fish people can catch, and either they die on their own or they take them home. They're either harvested or lost due to mortality, and how many you can actually keep in that population to sustain itself.
Well, shit, there goes everything. Gabe's right. We're done.
Hey,
But I mean,
No.
I
want to
see
ask.
that point though.
Well, no, conservation is something to be heavily considered.
but one of my biggest contentions is does that need to be centralized? Does for example, does the American federal government need to oversee that, or is that something that private individuals can oversee? Why is it that how should I put it? A lot of times, especially looking at international examples, conservation efforts are almost 50-50, where either they do a passable job, not a great job, but a passable job, or they suck ass at it and essentially allow the species to dwindle. I'm curious, again, to reiterate the point, should there be a centralized institution in place of handling these conservation efforts, or would you think that there is a way for the market or private entities to be able to handle conservation efforts?
Now, my thought is, with it being centralized, it can be managed as in everyone has to have this one thing in order to be able to fish anywhere that's public land, right? But if it's privatized, it would be more of a would it be more like self-service? What am I trying to think? Would it be more like, I guess, TV, where you have certain channels or certain places you can go or you can access with your license, or do you have to have multiple licenses, or do they all get access to the same things, like public land?
I would say it's not so much more so being able to access public areas, but I mean, being able to sell the commodity, like mainly like in whether it be an endangered species or a non-endangered species. Like, you're not selling land access, you're selling being able to forage fish or
harvest
hunt. Harvest the wild fauna, for lack of a better way to put it. And I mean, I think there's, especially if one can profit off of it, there's no reason that anybody who privately owns it would want to run, like, no, they don't want their cash crop to run out.
Right. So what you're kind of saying is, like, how on public lands there tends to be a what's it called, harvest limit, how many you can actually take home.
Yes.
So so on these private lands, you have, you can catch this many fish. If you pay me this much money, you can go and catch this many fish, or you can hunt this many elk or deer or whatever. Honestly, I don't think that'd be a bad idea. But what would happen?
And real quick, you wouldn't be like paying. You wouldn't be paying just for like the elk or the fish or anything. You'd also be paying for the experience, like private hunting reserves, because a lot of people do want that. That challenge of it. And I mean, I think even I think there's a happy medium between like the hunting that goes on public lands managed by like the DOW and the BLM, and like the hunting reserves who say, how should I put it, who guarantee you a kill.
Right.
I think there's a happy medium where, I mean, you don't have to charge someone $450 to go out and hunt an elk and be guaranteed to get that elk, but you can charge someone and you can still limit the access of the tags to go, oh, well, hey, $30 to come on my, or basically like private tags already are, where it's like, oh, hey, $30 to come on my land, and try to hunt for them. And you kind of, I mean, there's a business model already out there that you can kind of model it off of, like the Department of Wildlife does. I mean, there's definitely rooms for improvement and whatnot, because like DOW's not going out and trying to breed these animals, but
right. They're just making sure there's enough to breed. They're not like they're not out there breeding them or anything. Yeah.
To add something that I've noticed, I mean, I've been getting into hunting a lot more lately, so I've been looking into a lot of these things, and I don't know if this is for like all the states or whatever, but I know specifically for Colorado, our DOW does not pull any tax money from the citizens. They receive zero tax revenue for any of their programs, salaries, anything. It is all based on licenses.
So it's all from fishing and hunting licenses.
It is all from fishing, hunting, park licenses, day passes, things like that.
Yep.
And to me, that's almost exactly like a private business. I mean, that sounds exactly like a private business. But at the same time, the way I see like public versus private things like that is, if you have a private entity selling these tags and saying, okay, I have this many tags, I have this herd, and so on, at any time they can sit here and pull your right to hunt on there. Whereas with public, which essentially in Colorado, because we're not guaranteed the right to hunt in Colorado, they can do the same thing. I just see it more as an issue of, is it really my right to hunt? Is it really my right to go on public land to hunt? if it is my right, why do I have to pay for it? Or if it's not my right,
Why do I have to
should
take
I have
care
to
of
pay
it?
for it? Exactly.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of why I think it should be left up to like the private sector, is because the people who are interested in kind of that profit aspect, they're going to want to maintain their lands. I mean, they're going to also control where people can set up camp and all of that, and they'll be able to limit tags as well based off of their supply stock of like the product that people are hunting. And there's also even something that say that it is a affordable private hunting reserve that people have. I mean, they still can make their money even off of like employing butchers as well, where it's like, oh well, you don't have to go out to a specific butcher, but we have our own in-house person. Should you get something that you can come on through and butcher it here and there. Oh, I'm sorry, I went off on a
Oh, you're
tangent.
good.
I can't remember the there's certain points I wanted to address with Julian's question that I just can't remember.
That's okay. But, I mean, go ahead, Gabe.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in regards to privately owned land and people, they have their own sort of cash crop, which would be whatever herd or whatever fish they have. Now, from my understanding of how Fish and Wildlife, DOW, any of the government bodies for public lands do it, they try to base it off of what would be naturally occurring in that ecosystem. Would that be a limitation for private as well, or would they be able to bring in, say, trophy animals? I don't know if this is even a thing that happens.
Well, go ahead, Julian.
Specifically in New Mexico, I forget what it is. It's some African. What the hell is it called? Onyx, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Onyx. Yeah, they're from Africa. Somebody brought them into a private reserve to New Mexico, and they closed the reserve, or they got out, one or the other. I can't remember. And it is a thriving species in New Mexico now.
Ooh,
it is
right.
an invasive species,
yeah.
Which is
but
the issue.
the
That brings up a
DOW of New Mexico still controls it.
That's a very interesting point that you bring up, Julian, and I honestly didn't think of it until now. But I mean, is invasive species where
Well, there's actually a lot that can be said for incorporating.
no, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go on that aspect. No,
Orcs, not Onyx. Orcs, ORYX, whatever the hell.
Oryx. Yep.
Oryx,
Nope,
yeah.
you're right. No, you that raises a very valuable point as well, because they do starve out the starve out the native species.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the hog problems all throughout the South. I mean, there's a reason why, like in specifically Colorado, it is against the law for anybody to charge for a pig hunt because they are so invasive, and people will literally bring them in because they can thrive anywhere.
Oh,
Anywhere.
because
Pigs will thrive anywhere.
Oh yeah, they eat anything, and you see videos everywhere of these wild boar hunts of people just knocking down tons of wild boar because you can, because they want them gone because they're so invasive. They're so they overcompete every other animal that's out there.
And as much as I'm not necessarily for, like, I don't think a big centralized government is great. I don't think them controlling every aspect is great. But at certain points, I have to agree that, say, a non-profit entity controlling this, because they have no gain in it. All they care about is the conservation of these animals and protecting, not necessarily just as a whole, but just making sure they can still thrive while everybody else still gets their opportunity to harvest their animal.
Right.
And that's why I'm not, it sucks I have to pay for a tag, but at the same time, I understand why I have to pay for a tag. And I understand, like, recently that the DOW is talking about a 50% increase over 10 years. I know it didn't go through for hunting licenses. I can see why they do that. I don't necessarily agree that, hey, they should tell me I have to pay more, but I can see their point behind it.
Well, there's a couple of things I would like to address, but I'll go with the first and foremost one. And to preface that, I am an outdoorsman myself. And I actually DOW is actually one of the very few government entities that I actually like and support and would like
Right.
to continue as a libertarian. But to play devil's advocate here is like what you were saying with the wild boar and invasive species. When it comes down to being a privately, if things were to become more and more privatized, I would say there would still be an incentive to preserve those that the invasive species displace.
Mhm.
Oh, I can see that because I've seen many private elk herds where they have so many problems with these, like deer in specific. Deer and elk don't like each
Yeah,
other.
deer and elk don't like each other, and I mean, we're having such problems here, at least within like the springs,
Yeah,
that like I mean, we're genuinely considering urban hunting license or urban archery hunting licenses
Yep,
for
I heard about
deer,
those.
which makes me want to re-buy a bow again.
and I mean, I completely agree that if you have something and you're making money on it, you want to do everything you can to protect that investment.
Yes.
And that's the cool thing about like with wildlife, like you said, it's DOW is one of the few government entities that I support because they're not in it for any reason other than to protect these animals for everyone else to use.
Right.
You
And
don't
that's
ever see
exactly
them really
why
lobbying
No.
to expand out their freaking like they never go to lobby to expand out their department.
No.
Right.
And then you see these private ranches, they do the exact same thing. They care about these animals just as much as the people hunting them.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
that's
and
where
they don't sell off, especially with like the private lands. They sorry to interrupt, but they're not selling off their lands either to like resource resource development companies, mining, whether it be oil or anything like that. They're not selling off their lands to them where they're like, no, we they stick by one, their profit incentive, but two, well, it should be one first and foremost that they're sticking by their principles, their moral principles of like, no, we want to preserve and conserve like the resources we have here.
and that's the cool thing about like hunters in general. And I'm not going to say like 100% of hunters are this way, is that they have a love for it, for hunting and outdoors so much that they don't really care about making something of it. They want to continue it for everybody to use. And that's what one thing I like about the DOW is that a lot of the people that work for the DOW are hunters, are fishermen, are outdoorsmen, and they want to continue to enjoy these things just as much as everybody else does.
Mhm.
And that's
Yep,
what I like
and-
about it.
And I honestly, a lot of my positions come out of a desire to expand it out. But while granted, at least within our state, they're not necessarily relying solely on tax dollars. It is still something that is dependent on tax dollars. And when you consider a lot more other areas that people want to put their tax dollars to, the Department of Wildlife is thrown off to the sides where no one cares about it. And that's why they have to rely on this model now. And since it's being heavily centralized, like there's no way to wrest that power from them where they're going to be at a certain, well, they're almost certainly overwhelmed now with the logistical expectation of what we're demanding from them.
Mhm.
And I completely agree with that because, I mean, I love to hunt. I love it.
Yes,
I
yes.
want to get into it even more than I am now. But I can see a reason to, I guess, advocate for a private sector in hunting because I see how much these private individuals care about it. But at the same time,
There's
it's kind of
a
like
monopoly on it. There's a monopoly
there
on
is.
it, and this is exactly what people worry about whenever like the discussions of monopolies come up. But the only entity that has a monopoly on it is the Department of Wildlife, and it's becoming exactly what we feared, where scarcity is starting to come in, and they're not able to have the resources to be able to meet that scarcity, or at least try to counteract it.
To bring up the topic of scarcities, look at the issues with wild horses now, where the BLM controls that aspect of, hey, they're on public land, they're a public entity. Because they're becoming such a problem, they literally are starting to issue hunting licenses in certain areas for horses. I don't necessarily agree with that because I don't see the point in hunting a horse. They should continue to do what they do, gather them up, rally them all up, and sell them for $100 a piece to people who want to buy a horse.
I don't
necessarily agree with like the government should be selling those things, but at the same time, it's just if it's ours, we should have access to it. But they shouldn't be just like that's a stupid thing on their part to tell people, hey, go shoot these horses.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to explore with that, because I always forget the fact that even here there's wild horses roaming around.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't necessarily eat them.
They're not.
Yeah, you can.
Well, you can eat them, but it's socially unacceptable here in America.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, I come from an Asian family, or like part of my family is Asian, so I mean we accept everything from horse to Kegogi. So,
but I mean, I can see like that's like to me. I mean, the BLM isn't necessarily like a DOW. I mean, having worked with them, my boss is a BLM employee, and he is so against their idea of managing horses. He is so against their idea of managing lands. He is so against their idea of trying to manage wildlife. He says it just does not work with them. But the way that like state DOWs are doing things, it works. Because these DOW employees, they are literally working these areas day in and day out. And I don't want to bring up another topic, but the topic of introduction of wolves to these ecosystems can be detrimental. And the state DOW are telling these national biologists that no, you are wrong.
To reintroduce wolves
to destroy these ecosystems.
Yep,
they will thrive in certain areas. They will do great in certain areas, but they will also destroy herds.
Well,
leave it to the states.
It's going to go back. It's going to go back to like essentially the natural system of things, because like we're having these problems now by reducing the wolf population that exists now. We have effectively reduced the wolf population that existed 150 years ago, and now we're encountering the problems that we have now. So they're basically saying, well, if we go back to the same way we used to think, we have problems now, and if we go back to the way things used to be, we're going to have the same problems that we had then. So we'd rather deal with these problems now.
And I mean, not being a biologist, I don't necessarily understand the whole ecosystem type of thing. I mean, perfectly, but from my understanding as a hunter, there is a chain of, I want to say what is it? The food chain? There's a food chain for a reason.
We get the opportunity to hunt wolves. That'd be dope as fuck.
But you have to remember,
we have bears. We still have bears.
Wolves will literally hunt a herd just to hunt them. They won't eat them.
Just like people do. We'll hunt a herd. We'll hunt animals.
I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that at all.
Hunting just to hunt?
I do not agree in trophy hunting. Let's put it that way.
You don't agree with trophy hunting?
Are wolves trophy hunting? I think we're doing the same thing as wolves, to be honest with you.
I don't.
You know,
My thing with hunting wolves though is not for a sport. It is to help regulate the ecosystem that they are a part of. That is another reason why I am such an advocate for hunting, because if you let elk or deer just roam free, they will literally start dying because they're starving. Look at the
Well,
case in Colorado
well,
Springs.
well, what do you think about bear hunting then? If you're against,
I do not bear
if
hunt.
you're well, I'm not asking if you bear hunt. I'm curious what you think of the concept of bear hunting.
People eat bear. I don't eat bear. They do. I mean,
You
I
can
don't
eat
see the
wolf.
point. You can. You can. That's right. That's true. But
It would be
people
called
aren't hunting
kegogi,
wolves.
according to Koreans.
People don't hunt wolf just to eat them, and that's the same with coyotes. People don't hunt coyotes
People,
to hunt them or eat them. They hunt them because they are a predator and a pest, and they are invasive to certain areas. Like down here with cattle, they will literally attack a calf, eat the calf, destroy a herd.
I
These packs of
I would
coyotes will
say with
destroy herds.
I agree with you there. And coyotes are a pest, and but with bears though, I mean, it's like people don't go out of their way to eat bear though. You can eat bear. You can eat
It's
anything
greasy.
that you hunt.
mhm.
Yes, it is. Like I did it I tried it a couple of times, and I will say, like, I would not go out of my way to hunt bear to eat.
Oh, it's
But
acquired taste. Yes.
I mean, is bear hunting by your means ethical?
Me personally, I do not see as an ethical reason to hunt any ethical reason to hunt bear. It's not for me personally. I just don't see the point in it. If it were to become an issue like with wolves, people are like wolves are invasive. I mean, they're
You're
not
hunting
invasive.
down you're hunting down something that can literally beat your ass within
And
a
that's
second. Well, not just
that's
beat your ass, eviscerate you.
Right.
and that's kind of like
And
the whole topic of mountain lion hunting. Is it okay? I don't know. I've never hunted mountain lions. I haven't looked into mountain lions, the problems they could cause. I don't know. I don't do it because
that's when it I would say that's seriously when it goes from there's hunting for sustenance, which I we're all in agreement here, but there's also hunting for sport. That's
Right.
literally like that's why they call hunting a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's why they have mountain lion hunting, bear hunting, and I mean I'm in complete agreement with you. I would be totally fine with them reintroducing wolves into the ecosystem, but so long as we can hunt them and keep them, we can keep them in check by being able to hunt them, and it would be for sport and for trophy hunting, but from again, it would not be from a sustenance based route. It would be for trophy because you're hunting an incredibly intelligent animal, which I think is, I don't know. Again, it's sport.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, if there's a reason behind it, if there's a purpose behind hunting, I don't see it as a sport. I see it just as I consider me as a hunter, conservation. You don't go out to hunt elk just because you want to help. I mean, there are people that do that. I go out to hunt elk because I want to provide for my family. I want to
think
go out and
hunting-
hunt elk because I want to know where my food comes from.
I think hunting's multifaceted because I mean, while I do see hunting through the same scope that you do, where it's like this puts us back with our natural roots and whatnot, I also see it as an aspect of going, let's see what man is truly capable of. Like we've conquered nature, but we still need to be in that constant battle with it. I mean, I would even say there can be certain regulations when it comes to like wolf hunting. That's not a discussion for now, but I mean, it's something like we're competing with something that while it doesn't have the exact same type of intelligence, it is still a intelligent being that we are wanting to compete with. And it's you're risking your life to go and hunt them.
And that's why I think I want to say a huge issue with like privatizing hunting, but I don't see the point in just making this a for money sport. That's why I have like not an issue with like getting rid of like the DOW or something. I feel there's a need for it because I don't want hunting to go to you pay money, you get what you want. I want it to continue to where it is. You put in the effort, you put in this work, and you get something so wonderful out of it that you can provide literally an entire year's worth of food for your family. I don't want it to go down the route of just spend money, spend money, spend money, spend money, get nothing out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you there, but there's certain people who want to go outside of, okay, I'm hunting an animal to provide for myself and or my family, but I want a challenge. I want something. People want the challenge. They want to be able to compete against something else, like with bear hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bear hunting, and well, that's why we have the different forms of hunting as well, like black powder, muzzleloader, and archery. Like the people want the challenge,
and that's going to be there. And it's not like we're going to be hunting everything out of extinction, but
I mean, there's going to be people there who want to. Ooh, I did just think of something though, because that does create, especially if there is privatized wolf hunting and privatized like elk hunting, there's going to be a conflict between those that have a company where they sell elk hunting as a product versus those that
wolf hunting.
The wolf hunt, the people who own the wolves are going to be in massive dispute with those who have the elk to be hunted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm a part of a hunting group on Facebook, and it is always a debate. Should we hunt wolves? Should we do this? Should people be allowed to have private elk herds? Blah 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 blah. And yes, I think they should. They should be allowed to have that.
Oh,
they
yeah.
should be. They should have every right to do those things, just like the government does. They should have every right to control their herds, just like DOW does.
And the one big thing I can think of is just
when you go to a court to sue for property damages, basically the thing is going to be his wolf herd ate up my elk herd.
Right.
And that's going to be the biggest thing is, it's going to add a good aspect of naturalism again to everything.
And that's where like the whole private citizen thing comes into play is when should the government step in and say, okay, you got to pay for what you did? I mean, literally, elk have predators. They're always going to have predators, whether it's us, whether it's coyotes, whether it's wolves, a bear, whatever. I mean, does the government have a right to come in and say, hey, you can't be a predator anymore?
That's a very good point. I can't really think of a counter argument off the top of my head for that.
That's where I have like the biggest issue with like governments controlling hunting, because like in Colorado, we don't have the right to hunt. They can take it from us.
Right.
Whereas I personally feel is I have every right to hunt. I have every right to use these animals that nobody owns, but according to you, the people do. I have every right to fill my freezer with them.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard for me to say, yes, the government should have control of them, and no, they shouldn't. It's one of those internal arguments of how does it play out? Which way does it work? I mean, it's working well now as it is, but is it always going to work this way?
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's working to an extent. One of the big issues we're having, like, if you've noticed, there's a huge overpopulation with deer going on in certain areas.
Yeah.
And one thing is the hunting community can't control it on its own because it's still being overpopulated with deer. Would the reintroduction of wolves actually circumvent that? Because we're kind of filling the role that wolves used to fill, right? We're the ones who are the predators for these animals now. If we reintroduce wolves, we're instead competing with the wolves for this resource. But if we privatize it, like what was said earlier, there's going to be a clash between those who own the wolves and those who own the elk.
Well, at least through the middle ground of basically having the centralization over it. Even if they did reintroduce wolves into various ecosystems, I mean, I would say that the Department of Wildlife would have a say in how wolves are to be hunted, especially to preserve the ecology on it.
And that's where
I mean, it's just like with coyotes as well. I mean, don't coyotes hunt down like the antelope that are running around out there? I mean, they're still a pest.
They hunt all.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
they
where
hunt it
the
all.
issue comes is that the federal government is trying to tell these states, hey, we're going to put elk or we're going to put wolves back in your state, but you have no say on what happens to them. And that's where the DW is having the issue is that, well, they're saying, well, if you put it in our state and the wildlife, we have every right to manage them. And the federal government is like saying, no, because we're saying they're endangered now. You can't hunt them.
I would disagree with that. Yeah, I see where you're coming on that now. Okay.
Ooh, well, that brings up another issue of between being federal government and states' rights. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And actually, this is something that's happened recently in Colorado. I don't know about you, Jack, but I've always been interested in shed hunting because, hey, you find a nice set of antlers, hang that on your wall. Well, now in certain areas in Colorado, you have to get a license to do so. And all over Colorado, except for eastern Colorado, you cannot shed hunt until, I think it's May 1st.
Is that because of rut, or is it just because they want to...
They are saying that is an issue with, it's putting too much pressure on the herds outside of like the rut because it's they feel like it's pushing them further out of their their main area because they're out there looking for these specifically. They're looking for sheds
that aren't connected to an elk.
And me personally, at the same time, again with the government can't tell me what to do. I see their point. I see because they have put in the work. They studied this. They know what's going on, and they are bringing this forth and saying, guys, this is a problem. This is how we, as a DOW, the people who are pushing for your rights to hunt, are trying to tell you what needs to be done. And people are having a huge, huge backlash towards them. And it's almost like a 50-50 split with the people I've talked to. Like, I agree with the DOW or I don't agree with the DOW.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, like, I mean, both, I don't know about you, Gabe, but I know that Julie and I are both essentially libertarians, but it's not so much that we want to completely get rid of government and reduce it without any means of context, but we're always exploring the proper roles of what the government should be involved with. And I mean, DOW is a big thing. And I'm not saying that specifically to you, but I just want to make it clear as like, even to Julian, it's like, we don't need to be just blindly idealist libertarians, but we can explore like the proper roles of what government should be.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. No,
I've been called an anarchist, in case you guys were wondering, plenty of times.
Yeah. Same here.
Yep. Anti-government anarchist. Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I want to address, at least with the shed hunting things, is, you know, I mean, a lot of it deals with people, at least, how should I put it? When we think of like collecting the sheds, is, you know what, you're kind of just wandering around in the woods, and I mean, you're not like making an active effort to like track down and fully pursue everything, but you know, you go out during like the rut season or right after, and you know, you kind of just walk through the woods and find your sheds, just like you go for looking for like mushrooms and whatnot. But I mean, I think they're genuinely worried about if it can actually be like where it starts crossing the line into like poaching and whatnot.
And I can see that because that's actually one of the biggest issues I've been hearing about people saying is like, well, how do they know I'm doing it? How do they know I'm picking these sheds up? And then you got to remember those people that actually aren't avid hunters that are out in the woods, walking around with their friends and, hey, look, there's an antler. Let's take it home. How are they supposed to know? Hey, guys, we're doing something wrong here. I mean, I know that's kind of like what is it? What do they call that?
They think if like shed hunting is legalized, essentially, that poaching is going to be encouraged, or like just hunting without a license.
And then, I mean, that's kind of a big thing too, is like people are trying to, I mean, there's been a lot of crackdown on poaching lately anyways, is that maybe, if we implement these, restrictions on shed hunting, it might help with the poaching issues too. But I mean, I don't know. I've never looked into it because that's not my thing. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a wildlife biologist. So I don't know the studies behind it, but does shed hunting really, put that much strain on elk herds or deer herds? What does it do? I mean, these people have telling me that it does. Are they right? Who am I supposed to listen to? But me personally, I mean, I see the DOW's point on, because again, they are there for us, and they're one of the few government areas that truly are working for us.
Well, even not just for us, but no, they're one of the very few government agencies that I actually support.
Definitely.
Now, with the whole, does shed hunting put much pressure onto elk? I mean, you've gone to the same spot to hunt elk. How many years in a row now, Julian?
Like 6, 7.
And have they gone anywhere?
I've pulled an elk out every year I had a license.
What does shed hunting do that's more detrimental to that community than actually killing them?
That's true. That's very true, because I've literally watched a herd of 400 elk run around and over a mountain, and the next day they were exactly where they were the day before.
Because they have huge ranges. They don't just stay in that one spot. You're not pushing them out of that one spot.
They
go from
all around all up and down the Rocky Mountain region.
Yeah.
And to take Dad's words straight out of his mouth, they are a creature of habit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They go in the same pattern every time. They basically try to drink at the same time, eat at the same time, sleep at the same time, and in the same place.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where, like, again, the whole issue, should the government tell me I have to buy a license? It's picking up antlers. Does it really cause that big of an issue? Do shed hunters cause a problem like the DOW is saying? Do fish really die off if I catch too many?
It depends. What are you fishing with?
What do you probably do die off? Like snagging, you're definitely killing the salmon when you snag. I mean, they're going to die anyways, but
when it comes to, say, bait fishing, like on the bottom, when you throw it out there, you leave it, and then wait for something to bite it, there is an 80% mortality rate. So 80% of the ones that you catch and put back die.
Oh, shit. I did not know that.
It's at least 80.
Well, hey, real quick, I just want to go back to, I think, the most important question that you guys were talking about earlier is my most important question is, and this is for Julian, where the hell are you going where you're pulling out elk every year? Let me know that area. Like that's a legitimate, I don't give a shit about anything else we've talked about. Where the hell are you going to do this?
Right, he's been waiting for
I am not the type of hunter to keep it a secret. We actually go to Area 50. It's it's the backside of Rheinenkirk. So you have Rheinenkirk Ridge off of Highway 9. And it's called the backs. Well, we call it the backside of Rheinenkirk because it's literally the backside of the ridge, but it's called the Tomahawk State Wildlife Area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Gorgeous.
I go out. I typically go out to 61 and 62, right on the west side of like Montrose.
Mm. We used to hunt Area 55, but there were too many hunters there. And my Robert, actually, his father-in-law, started hunting. It was like a year after him, and they started going to Area 50, and they're like, "Hey, you guys should come out." So we tried it, found a good area, and was it 5 years ago I pulled my first elk out. And every year since, we have pulled a tag for that area. We have pulled an elk out.
I just want to say real quick, this brings up an interesting point going actually back to the serious nature of our discussion is that you do realize that like these hunting spot secrets are a private means in order to help with the conservation effort, where just like you were just saying now, you used to hunt, what was it, area 50?
55 before.
55. Too many hunters came around. There was too many people, and I mean, the carrying capacity shifted. But I mean, you guys were keeping it secret from, or at least people would like to keep it secret from one another. And like once enough word gets around about a certain area, it's everybody knows that hunting area goes to shit.
Yeah, but where we hunt though, the area, everybody knows about it. It's just nobody wants to hike up there to get it.
Yep, it's like a sheer,
It is
almost a sheer hike up this.
Yeah, it's
side of this ridge.
my dad has a term. It's a ball buster hill.
Yeah, yeah. Basically crawling up the hill to get.
I
up.
do like the sound of that.
Oh, it's awesome.
So
It is a
real quick-
nice area.
damn it, where's my pen? Where's my pen? Okay, so you said it was area area what?
50.
Area 50. Alrighty.
What season do you hunt?
I typically hunt second season.
See, that's what we used to hunt when we go up to 55. But with the recent change in the weather, in the past 10 years, it's been hotter and hotter. We pushed it back to third season now.
Really? And you're still
Yeah.
pulling shit out?
Yep.
Wow.
We're seeing a lot more now in third season than we had in second season.
No way.
Yep.
Mhm.
I think it has to do
man.
with. I mean, I don't know if it's just because of the how cool it is in the mornings now or during third season or what, but it's just every like literally the first year I actually took an elk out of there, I walked right on top of them. I was within 25 yards because there was nobody up there. They were still bedded down.
Don't talk to me that way. Oh my god, you're disgusting me right now.
Oh
It
no.
is like, I mean, I could reach out and touch one. It was that close, and then like
Here it
it was.
I'm
like, I
sick
didn't
of
go
you.
to pasture,
Strongly
but
curious.
the year before, me, my dad, and my older brother Leroy, we were out and we were like, okay, we're not seeing anything, and all of a sudden he sees two bull walk like right past him, not even like running, just trotting along, like, hey, how you doing? And I take off after the direction they were going, and all of a sudden I run into their herd and they're just sitting there.
Oh,
Mhm.
I gotta go check this out to experience it myself. Just you're almost sounding like a snake oil salesman. Just with, like, I mean, I'm willing to make the hike, but this just sounds too good to be true.
If you look at my profile picture on my Facebook, that is from 2 years ago.
What?
This was the last year I went hunting. Actually, I didn't go this year because of my school schedule, but that I pulled that elk out.
Is there any
last
way you can
2
do
years
over
ago.
the counter?
No, that's the
For that area?
unfortunate thing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Because
Draw.
with where the two places we typically go is the general rule of thumb, at least within our group, is like you either draw a tag for 61 or you get an over the counter tag for 62, which is absolutely fucking miserable. But I mean, it's not unheard of because the area where we hunt used to be the two areas. The only thing that divides them is this old road, but across the road in 62 it used to be an old like logging area, so there's just a bunch of down slash, and I mean you can't get a good shot in within 25 yards. You can't get an open shot in taking out some kind of down slash or anything like that.
Dang.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that sucks about it. But that's kind of where we use an advantage on our part is we all put in. I mean, we literally all put in. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like at least 6 of us that all put in for this area, and then we hunt it hard. We don't like we're not like rushing through and stuff. We use our numbers to our advantage and just spreading out and just hunting the shit out of these hills. We get up and we're up there 30 minutes before sunrise, and we're at the top of this hill waiting for them to walk out, and then we hunt it till like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel better about myself because you're one of the few people I've at least gotten to talk to who's the type to wander around. Or at least do like some kind of ghetto tracking.
Oh yeah,
and that's I mean, we've literally been walking through there one time, and it was snowing, and we doubled back, and the elk literally walked right on top of our shoes, our boot prints. I mean, they were literally right there, and it makes us so mad because we're like, man, we should sit here and wait, but at the same time, we never see anything when we sit and wait.
I'm too ADD. I'm too ADD, and I have a better chance of like stomping through the woods to try and find an elk than like sitting there and fucking around and waiting.
My damn feet get too cold sitting there. I can't. I gotta wiggle my toes, and
I
don't want them damn things to fall off. Yeah, I fall asleep.
Yeah, I've fallen asleep.
Yeah. To keep myself from falling asleep, I just start going, slapping my hands around, like trying to like shuffle around, twiddle my thumbs. I can't do it. I don't know how people are able to, but I just
neither do I. I don't see how people can do that, and then it's just
Maybe they're just I would say maybe they're a better hunter than I am, but geez,
I don't know.
Can't do it.
or the people that like to sit there and drive the roads all over the damn place and wait for them to come out.
That's the worst.
That's old boy style, man. Like, when they're just rolling through with like a freaking 6-pack of fucking Miller, and it's like, oh well, I know road hunting's illegal, so I'm just gonna get out.
Yeah.
There's a couple of guys that we went with. They'd literally just be in the truck smoking the entire time.
I know exactly how that
I'm
goes.
like, how do you do that? Because then you get out and you get smelled by them immediately.
So we were hunting. Want to go on a tangent? We were hunting in the area we hunt, and these two guys we know, like, hey, where you guys at? Oh, we're on top of riding car on the backside. We're up Tomahawk. Okay, we'll meet you up there. We're on lunchtime and we roll around, walking through the forest, cigarette in hand.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
We're like, what are you doing? We're like, oh, nothing. Just finished lunch. We're like, we're trying to hunt here, and you're smoking. Oh, they can't smell it. I'm sorry, what? Elk can't smell you smoking?
Nope.
That's the one time, and typically that's especially since I did start smoking. Like I typically get to the point where I start getting very pissed off at the end of elk camp. So, but at least I can. It's easier to storm through the woods rather than reeking of cigarette smoke.
Oh yeah.
And that's why it's hard for me to really kind of like sit still, especially since I just try not to smoke. I'm like, let's just keep walking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started messing with shit and making too much noise and start going through my bag and like, oh shit, what's this?
Oh, hey, there's beef jerky. I'm just gonna open up the fucking plastic bag.
Yep, that's exactly it. And I just
No, I know exactly how
that area is actually so bad to get up that the DOW 2 years ago literally sat at the bottom of the hill and watched me and my brother drag an elk down, waited an hour for us to get down, and then asked us for our tag rather than going up there and asking us.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's fucking hilarious.
It's a pain in the ass, but it's well worth the hunt.
Well, I mean, if you're bringing stuff out, I would be more than happy to.
Was it 3 years ago? We pulled 3 elk out in that area.
Get out of here.
Two bull on opening morning, and then my elk on that Thursday.
Shut up! Opening morning of third season. What?
No. Okay, let me rephrase. Opening afternoon. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay,
my
still
dad
opening
and cousin shot him. Yeah,
Julian, like I come on to talk to you, and then you start like spinning these yarns to me, and now you make me want to just go hike up a mountain just to call you, just to see if what you're saying is true.
Right? You don't want to call him a liar, but you're willing to if you have to.
Yeah. No, I'm willing to go out and go. Well,
I just made this massive hike just to prove someone wrong.
You are not the first person to tell me that. They're like, you pull an elk out how many times? What? And when I tell people,
Yeah.
3 in 1 year, one time, like, you're a liar. No, I was like, okay.
Yeah, no,
It's a pain in the ass because we actually don't take it to a processor, so we just process it ourselves. So
See, that's
I remember that year too.
Hey,
Process
how
it.
do you how do you process your how does your family process the stuff? Because my mom knows a little bit of butchery, but we have just
hundreds of pounds of sausage.
my dad used to hunt when he was younger, so he's like kind of an acquired thing. But back when he was hunting, he was actually a Boy Scout until they kicked him out, essentially. And
Yeah.
back when he was
Well,
a
it's
Boy
pretty-
Scout, it was actually they taught you these things.
Well, I know how to. Hey, I mean, I'm a Boy Scout too, but technically was, but no, like I never learned. Well, at least in our time, they never taught us how to butcher, and even when I've gone through a few of the things, luckily I just come through from a family of butchers. But
we just we don't like the way a lot of cuts of elk taste, but two, I mean,
we just make tons and tons and tons. We've made literal tons of sausage at this point now that I can think of it.
I mean, a lot of the things my dad learned growing up in Southwest Texas. I mean, literally a throw from the border. Him and his brothers used to go drink over the border in Mexico all the time. It was more of a survival thing for his family to learn how to do these things. My grandpa would slaughter goats every once in a while, occasions like that. Working on farms, ranches around there, things like that. It was more of he had to learn these things growing up rather than he wanted to.
Okay.
What kind of cuts do we get, though, Julian? We get a lot of
roasts. We do some steaks. We've been getting a lot into ground meat mostly recently because Dad bought a grinder.
right.
But it's more along the lines of just things my dad, you follow this line, you cut here, this is what you get out of it. I mean,
I can't handle doing it. Like I don't like elk steak.
You don't?
And
oh, I love it.
I can eat it, but I won't go out of my way to go. I won't say, "Oh, I love it." I'm like, nah,
Right.
nah, fam.
Not even the back straps?
the back straps I will give you there, but anything else, I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends. Like roast, I love roast. I mean, they're so
roast is
good.
amazing. But that's
If you do
slow
them
cooked.
right, yeah, that's right. That's so good.
You gotta give it time, and you gotta mix in the right amount of
Absolutely.
things, and that's the biggest thing is when you season it well, it's
Yes.
great. But
Mhm.
I absolutely love elk burgers. That is like my favorite
yes,
thing.
No,
to get out
elk
of
is
elk is the
great.
burger.
Any kind of ground meat, elk is absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
Like I
Agreed.
love elk sausage. That is one of. I mean,
I cannot get a good recipe for it. It just does not come out right for me.
We did
Really?
do summer sausage one year. That came out.
Oh yeah, elk summer sausage is
that
amazing.
came out amazing.
Ooh, no, I'd have to try and get what my mom does, but she does a really good elk sausage. But especially since that's primarily what we turn our elk into sausages, you kind of get good since that's the only thing we're going to do for it.
Yep.
So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well,
Already
is there
going
any,
on like 2.5 hours. Holy shit.
yeah. Well, that was a really fun and good talk. I mean, is there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to go in about?
I mean, just to touch on like the very first point and then the last point we were talking about, I just don't see education is not for everybody. If those people actually are listening
That's
to
true.
us right now, you gotta know what's good for you.
Yep.
Nobody is 100% the same as the next person.
Right.
Sometimes education just doesn't work for you.
hmm
And then, like, to touch on this last thing, the government sucks. It really-
Yep.
They can
But
do something great.
there are very few and far areas that they did good on, and the regulation of and conservation of the wildlife is one thing that I think that they're doing good on. There are some things that they've screwed up on, but
Yeah, they can improve. Always.
this seems to be that the one area that the government has truly put the ideologies of the people before the ideologies of government.
Mhm.
Because
they
I think
actually
the
have
reason
competent
being,
people in it.
I think the reason being is because when they're looking at wildlife, when you look at wildlife, it's not just what we want. They're looking at what the wildlife
whole
wants to.
environment. Yeah,
and
the whole environment.
Yeah, it's not just. It doesn't seem like just a power grab like most other things the government does. They don't want to just control it. They're trying to preserve it.
They are the one area that they truly want everybody to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But, well, perfect. No,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything to add on to that, on to those closing thoughts. It was a great time talking with you. I'm glad I got to talk with you again, Julian.
Yeah,
It
you
was
too.
very nice talking and to meet you as well, Gabe.
Oh yeah, same here.
Perfect.
Good
So-
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're going to try to do this every Saturday, roughly around the same time. Saturdays always work best for me, so maybe it's going to be every Saturday, every other Saturday, but you're more than welcome to join every
Oh, yeah.
time, every other time.
Yeah, no.
Once a
And
month,
I would love.
I really don't care. I mean, if you want to talk, we're willing to talk.
Yeah, and I'd love to always, if you want to, feel free to hit me up as well. And I mean, I'm always happy to give my unneeded 2 cents worth. So
Yeah, I mean, I do
but-
have, I don't know if our title, if you haven't noticed, is WIT. It's an acronym because YouTube won't let me put this word on their platform. It actually stands for Wetbacks in Time. So I hope you don't get offended by some of the things we talk about because
oh,
YouTube in general does not like the term wetback.
Oh,
I can understand
Oh.
why.
you don't
But-
even.
begin to understand. I'm perfectly fine with all that kind of stuff.
So we had to become creative and use an acronym. We are WIT,
Oh my god.
a
Oh,
controlled
boy.
chaos.
I like it.
The
I like
emphasis on chaos.
And I think we had a really great talk. We had a
Mhm.
really great talks tonight. I mean, no lulls or anything like that. I really like it. You guys, both of you guys are
Hella fucking smart, man. So-
Oh yeah, we just like to talk. We're talking out our asses.
Oh,
Don't let
yeah.
anything we say.
hey, same here.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, Sarah and Robert, they had technical issues, but Sarah comes to us with not necessarily the same background on schooling as me and Gabe, but we literally grew up together. I mean, she's more like a sister to us, and we are cousins. But her views on things is so completely different than mine and Gabe's.
Yep.
And then
Well, I'm
Robert,
sad that we
being
didn't-
almost 10 years older than us, he's like almost an entirely different generation that we grew up with, who has a different perspective on some of the things that he went through, we're going through, people will go through.
Yeah, well, and I feel bad because we almost got to like right as we were finishing up with Gabe, we were
yeah.
right there to getting to Sarah because I would have liked to have her input as well, but
Mm-hmm. She
Well,
cut out
it-
right then too.
yeah, while it does suck, I mean, we were still able to have. I mean, I still enjoyed the hell out of this conversation.
Oh
too.
yeah.
pretty much
It's a
only
good one.
We
spent 2.5 hours talking about.
Right.
2 things.
Two things.
We had some tangents here and there, but
not
yeah,
bad.
2 things. Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'll be in.
I will definitely. I would definitely like to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, if you have any topic, and if I don't know anything about it, I'm willing to learn about it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Give me whatever it is, whatever you want.
No, I would be down.
Yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So all right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, no, thank you,
again,
Jack, for
great,
joining us.
Great talking with you guys. So
Yep.
hey, shoot me
a message like where you didn't.
I don't know what your channel is essentially, but I mean, I kind of like to
Watch.
I
watch through
I posted a link on Facebook. I tagged you in it, so
Oh, okay, cool. I did not. Yeah, I do not.
really look at my computer screen or phone or anything like that while we're on here. So no, I'll check that out. Thank you.
yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
So
I'll
all
I am trying to get like a dedicated YouTube channel for this. That way, it kind of doesn't
Perfect.
mix with my personal one. But yeah, if you're not if you're not participating in any of these, I'll still post a link, and you can definitely go in and check it out.
cool. Well, thank you very much, guys, and
Yep, thank
I
you.
mean,
Yeah, good talking.
you guys have a good rest of your night. All right.
Yeah,
Yep,
you too.
Good one.
So I'm signing out. Proud of your boys.
Have a good one, guys.
Later.